Hey everyone, and welcome back to Vampires, Werewolves, and Hunters Oh My. This week we are featuring a Being Human double feature. So today we're going to be covering two episodes of Being Human. The first being Pack It In, Pack It Up, and the second being Cheater of the Pack. So a big thing during this episode is Aiden and Kat have officially broken up. Aiden has confessed to her that he's a vampire and she is terrified. She kicks him out, and it's just over. So Aiden, he's wallowing, in self-pity, and he decides to go on a blood-drinking binge with who other than Kenny. At the same time, Josh and Nora are planning a special baby shower for Caroline and Andrew, the werewolf couple that just had their baby girl. They end up meeting a couple who is part of the pack that Caroline and Andrew are part of, named Mark and Wendy. Josh is very upset by Mark. He doesn't really know how to feel. I think there's definitely some wolf vibes going on there that he's just really not into. So at the baby shower, Mark and Wendy end up bringing a ton of different pack members. Next thing we know, the house is just swarming with werewolves. And unfortunately, during this time, Aiden finds it totally necessary to show up, drunk on blood, with Kenny. He's having a great time, he's dancing, he's enjoying himself. Everything seems to be going fine. Until a fight breaks out between Kenny and a werewolf who catches Kenny talking to one of the female werewolves. Aiden jumps in trying to save his friend, and all hell just kind of breaks loose. Josh and Nora have been trying to convince the werewolves that vampires aren't all that bad, and this just kind of definitely set them back in what they were trying to do. To throw one more kind of crazy thing into the mix here, Josh's sister Emily is back from rehab. She's staying with Josh and Nora, she's at the baby shower, there's a ton of alcohol. She's kind of starting to lose it. So Sally ends up casting this spell on her so that she can see Sally, so Sally can kind of talk to her and help her through things. It doesn't really work out how Sally plans, and Sally once again is transported back in time. This time we see Sally in the 1920s, where she comes across who she refers to as Aiden Capone. She watches vampire Aiden murder two women, one of which who she actually jumps into her body to try to save her. And she finally realizes that at one point in life, Aiden was just a cold-blooded killer. When she comes back and she sits down and talks to Aiden about it, she reprimands him and says maybe he deserves to be going through this heartache because of all the pain he caused other people by killing off these women. Obviously it wasn't his first kill. He had killed many, many times before. And it's a hard scene to watch her kind of reprimanding him for the mistakes he made in his past. So Aiden, he's still really upset about the whole cat situation. We actually see a scene where he's daydreaming about her. He daydreams that he comes to her and he compels her to love him and want to be with him. And I think it's even harder for him knowing he can never do that, take her love against her will. So I kind of like that they added that scene in there. We have Kenny, who he's not really accepted by Josh, Nora, and Sally, but Aiden is really trying to get him there. He becomes friends with this wolf named Astrid, and hit it off. They end up spending the night together, they're seen together the next day, and they're willing to take the full force of whatever comes their way from the pack and the vampires because of their newfound relationship. So Emily's had a hard time after the fight breaks out. She was hallucinating and seeing things thanks to Sally's spell, and she decides to leave. She just basically tells Josh she can't handle the environment and it's just time for her to move on and stay with a friend. So Andrew tells Josh and Nora that he's considering joining the pack. He believes that now that he has a daughter, he needs to protect her in any way possible, which includes becoming a part of the wolf community. He's, urging Josh and Nora that they should join the pack as well, and that it would be a really good idea for them to kind of have a sense of belonging. So we kind of leave the episode with all this happening, There was this big werewolf fight. Aiden is just completely, heartbroken over Kat. Sally's dealing with seeing this, realization of what Aiden used to be. And Josh and Nora are fighting the idea of whether or not they want to join the werewolf pack. There were a couple moments during this episode that I really enjoyed. There were 2 quotes that I really liked. The first being, Aiden shows up at the party and he's dancing, he's having a good time, and Josh decides how much blood he's had to drink. So Aiden, sounding like a, angry teenager. So Aiden, sounding like an angry teenager, says, "I don't know, Mom, a ton." And it's just really funny to kind of see him acting like that because he's just so drunk off the blood. Then we have Sally reprimanding Aiden, and she says probably one of the sweetest lines I've heard her ever say to him. She says, "You're a good man, please stay that way." Sally so wants Aiden to just remain this good, wholehearted man, even though she's seen that dark side of who he used to be. Sam Witwer did an incredible job during the 1920 scene of Aiden. He was absolutely terrifying. Just, the acting was superb, the writing was incredible. That scene had to be my absolute favorite during this entire episode. The final thing that I really enjoyed about the episode was Aiden's dancing. Watching Sam Witwer kind of let loose and having a great time, it was really enjoyable, and I'm glad they included that. Cheater of the Pack was a very intense episode. A lot happened, so bear with me as I try to cram it all into about 5 minutes. So we open up with Josh waking up after a change, and he's lying next to who we believe is Nora, until he wakes her up and we find out he's just woken up next to Wendy, Mark's wife. Throughout the episode, Josh is trying to convince Wendy not to tell Mark and that he won't tell Nora because it just won't go over well if anything happened between them while they were in wolf form. So, Wendy believes that Mark will be fine with it. She wants to tell him. So Josh is, on the verge of breaking down and telling Nora what happened when Mark shows up at the house. He proceeds to beat up Josh for sleeping with his wife, and that's how Nora finds out. I wish Josh would have said something to her earlier, and that she didn't have to find out this way. So, they fight, and Nora's trying to get Mark off of Josh, and Mark shoves her. This completely angers Josh. He completely wolves out and is pretty much going to kill Mark until Nora's able to catch his attention and he realizes what he's doing. So the house that the gang is living in used to be Sally's old house before she died. Robbie, Sally's brother, comes to the house and tells them that they have 30 days to vacate or 30 days to purchase a home. The family's decided to sell the house. They don't want to keep it anymore. This puts the gang in a difficult place. Josh and Nora are talking about moving out. Aiden is afraid to be alone. Sally's a ghost. She doesn't know what she's going to do if they leave. So Sally wants to plot ways to scare off potential buyers. Her ideas include a floating lamp, which is her just moving a lamp around, but they can't see because she's a ghost. She also encourages Aiden to eat the prospective tenants, which it's really funny to see that exchange between the two about him eating them. So she ends up settling upon making the house smell. She casts a spell, and the house smells disgusting. Hardly anybody can stand it. But Sally's not there to see her handiwork. She's again transported back in time to 2009. She gets to watch herself moving into the house with Danny, and she sees her brother there, and she realizes that her brother actually knew that Danny wasn't a good guy. He saw right through that facade that Danny had on, and, she kind of starts to feel bad about the way she treated her brother back then. So Aiden is really jonesing for blood. He's really thirsty. He decides he's going to go to a blood den to try to satisfy his craving. Well, he gets there and he's stopped by Susanna before he goes in. And, she talks to him and she tells him it's not what he wants to do. She wants to help him. So she takes him back to the bar where he works. They're spending time together. And, of course, as one would expect, the two end up hooking up in the bar. It's a very, very intense scene, very steamy. And, after that, the two of them discuss a pact. Aiden agrees to start trying to wean himself off human blood and to live like Susanna, who has only 70 milliliters of human blood a day, if Susanna agrees to stop killing the other vampires. They decide they're going to go through this journey together and help each other kind of stay true to the pact that they made. So the second potential tenants come into the house and they're looking around with Robbie. The little boy asks if he can use the bathroom, and Robbie tells him it's upstairs. Well, the kid is upstairs. He's a curious kid, so he starts wandering around, and he goes into one of the bedrooms. He sees something moving in the closet, and, he's opening the door, he's looking in there. There's a young girl in there hiding behind the clothes. She's giggling and laughing. It terrifies the little boy. And obviously, his parents take him home. They don't want to buy the house. They don't know what happened. So we're kind of left wondering, who's the mysterious girl in the closet? Robbie is doing some work in the basement, and he's trying to repair a sink down there when, a pipe bursts and water is starting to flood the ground. He's wearing these headphones, he's listening to music, so he doesn't know what's happening. And then the table starts vibrating. And obviously, there's got to be some kind of ghost or spirit behind this. We watch as the electric saw falls off the table into the pile of water and electrocutes Robbie. We ended the episode with Robbie laying there dead in the basement. At this point, no one knows what's happened, and it's just things have gone completely intense during this episode. The very final scene is a scene with Aiden. He wakes up and he's, covered in blood, and when he looks next to him, there's a dead girl lying next to him. So we kind of have to wonder, why did Aiden fall off the wagon? What is he going to do now? And, we kind of have to wait until the next episode to see what happens. There were a few really great moments during this and quotes that I really liked. Josh is talking to Wendy, telling her, they can't tell Mark what happened. And she says, Mark will be fine with it. It happened when we were wolves. And Josh asks her the question that I think was on everybody's mind during this scene. He says, "Are you and Mark swingers?" It's a valid question because from the way she's talking and the way she's making it seem like it'd be okay if she, had sex with another man, makes it seem like her and Mark are kind of into, swapping partners. The wolf fight. So the fight between Mark and Josh was really intense. There's a scene where Mark actually throws Josh across the room and he hits the TV. And I remember watching this and all I was thinking was, dear God, not the flat screen. No, just not the TV. I mean, that's probably a really weird reaction to have to Josh getting beat up by a wolf. But again, not the TV. So another really funny moment was Sally asking Aiden to eat the potential buyers of the house. She says it so nonchalantly, like it's no big deal, and it was just a really incredible scene to watch. So as we know, Sally gets transported back in time, and she kind of sees the way that Danny talks to her brother. And there's a scene where Danny is talking to Robbie in the kitchen of the house, and Sally isn't in the room, but, her ghost is watching. And, Danny is just being a complete jerk to Robbie, and every so often, Sally's like, and now the bitch slap. I call this Sally and the bitch slap. I feel like there could be an entire episode dedicated just to that. It's so funny. I love hearing her say it. And honestly, part of me wished that it would have eventually happened during the episode. But alas, we never get to see Robbie bitch slap Danny. Episode 5, The Breakdown. Join me as I discuss 3 new episodes next week, all of which have a certain breakdown between relationships and friendships that could ultimately change the path of each show.